scenes 5 and 6. As I said already, Act 4 has 7 scenes, and they go pretty quickly. There's a lot of momentum in them. So I'll go pretty quickly here, talking about the main important plot developments and looking at the most important quotes in these 2 scenes. Act 4, Scene 5 is all about juxtaposition. We've just seen the previous scene, Act 4, Scene 4, the angelic, the virtuous, the paragon of all that is good, Cordelia. And now we have her sister Regan, who is scheming and ruthless and morally corrupt. And she is the antithesis of Cordelia. And that word means exact opposite. And this play is so many antithetical characters in this play. Edmund and Edgar, Goneril and Regan, and Cordelia. And we have characters who are, Oswald and Cornwall's servant, Cornwall himself and Albany. So we have a lot of characters who are deliberately presented in the play as opposites of each other. And that's an interesting aspect of the play. Now, we learn in this scene that Regan is in love with Edmund and determined, following the death of her husband Cornwall, that she will marry him. And we also learn, very importantly, that Edmund and Regan have agreed that Gloucester must die. And it is a really interesting quote. Now, I wouldn't say it's like top tier, really important, but it's an interesting quote when Regan tells Oswald, Goneril's servant, "It was great ignorance, Gloucester's eyes being out, to let him live. Where he arrives, he moves all hearts against us. Edmund, I think, is gone in pity of his misery to dispatch his knighted life." And this is a really interesting moment because Regan is feeling sorry for herself, saying, "Oh, it was a big mistake to let him live because he's causing us trouble. So Edmund's going to kill him." And we're going, what? So you've already plucked his eyes out and now you're going to go and kill him. And his own son is going to go and kill him. So the moral degeneracy of these characters is made very clear to us. Her determination to marry Edmund is clear when she tells Oswald, "My lord is dead, Cornwall is dead. Edmund and I have talked, and more convenient is he for my hand than for your ladies." And of course, it's her determination. She's going to marry Edmund, and there's loads going on there. It sets up that vicious rivalry, which will have such shocking outcome in the next act. But it also is indicative of Edmund's, game here. We've seen him do it with his brother. We've seen him do it with his father. Clearly now he's doing it with Goneril and Regan. He's playing them off against each other. He's telling them 2 different stories. He's flattering them, trying to win their affection so that they will be vulnerable and he can exploit them and take their power. Edmund the Base is reaching for a crown. If he does reach and gain a crown, he certainly will have topped the legitimate. In Act 4, Scene 6, which is on page 51 of your booklet, we have that scene which I suppose drives a lot of students mad. It's difficult to stage. We have to try and get into the Elizabethan theatre, what the experience of the Elizabethan theatre and how reliant it was on the audience's imagination. But it's the scene where Gloucester thinks he's going to commit suicide and Edmund tells him at the side of a cliff and he's not at the side of a cliff, and then Edmund pretends he's a peasant who saw Gloucester attempt suicide and float down like a gossamer or like a feather, and Gloucester is then convinced that the gods want him to suffer, to punish him for his crimes, and he determines that he will. You can read that summary yourself. Let's have a quick look at the key quotes. Here is Gloucester saying, "I do remember now, henceforth I'll bear affliction till I do cry out itself, enough and die." So what he's saying is, I'll bear affliction. From this point, the gods don't want me to die. Obviously, they think I need to live to be punished for what I've done. So he's going to carry his cross. It's a very Christian image, even though the play is set in pre-Christian Britain. It is a very, very, very notable moment when Gloucester accepts that his fate is to suffer to atone for his sins. And speaking of which, at the end of the scene, Lear comes in, lost in his madness, just suffering and rambling, but he comes out with a couple of great lines. When we are born, we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. And he also says, "I am not ague proof." Now, both of those quotes are really good quotes to learn. I love "I am not ague proof." Ague is a word for disease or illness. What Lear is saying is, I am fallible, I am weak, I am just like any other man. It's a simple quote. It's an easy one to learn to show the impact of his suffering and the transformation in his sense of self. The great stage of fools, this idea that life is a bit of a joke. It's very reminiscent of Macbeth's soliloquy at the end of that great play, the Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow speech. Lear feels that he has been a fool, that his vanity, that his self-importance, his pompous behaviour has led him to become something of a joke. There's a tragedy in that line, but there's also insights which demonstrates his capacity for growth. At the end of the scene, Lear is found by Cordelia's guards. He collapses. He's taken away on a stretcher. Oswald comes in, spots Gloucester, doesn't realise that the guy with Gloucester is Edgar, thinks it's some peasant, tries to kill Gloucester because he knows he'll be rewarded by both Goneril and Regan if he does this. Edgar intervenes, they fight, and Edgar again saves his father's life. His heroism, his physical bravery, his ability to use his skills as a warrior when it matters, these are all indicators of why Edgar is going to be a suitable candidate for the crown at the end of the play. But crucially, this is Shakespeare just being the genius that he is in terms of plot development. And he's saying, there are letters. The letters are being carried by Oswald from Goneril to Edmund. He's acting as the intermediary. When Oswald dies, Edmund finds the letters, and this is what he reads. A plot upon her virtuous husband's life and the exchange, my brother. Goneril is planning to murder Albany in league with Edmund. There is a conspiracy. So this is proof of the conspiracy. And Edgar is going to play a key role by bringing those letters to Albany and showing them to him. In the mature time with this ungracious paper, he's going to strike the site of the death practiced Duke. He's going to use the letter to undo his brother. He's going to show it to Albany, and Albany is going to use it to bring Edmund down at last, along with Goneril. And that again heightens the anticipation. We can't wait to see what happens when Albany shows this letter to Goneril and to Edmund. We want to find out what will happen. We're being really drawn in very powerfully to the final act of the play. So that's the end of Act 4, Scenes 5 and 6.